Subscribing to The Observer on YouTube couldn't be easier, and we're going to show you exactly how to do that. First, navigate to www.youtube.com/TheObserverNJ. Once you get there, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button. Next to the subscribe button, click the down arrow and then all. And that's it. You're subscribed, and now anytime The Observer is live, you will be notified.
A global icon is now on Broadway for the first time ever. Boop the Musical. It's joyous and spectacular. A hugely enjoyable family show. From the Tony Award-winning director-choreographer of Kinky Boots, Boop the Musical, now on Broadway. Get tickets at boopthemusical.com.
Hi again, everybody. It's Kevin Canessa coming to you from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com. And today I have an honor that I have never had before in all the years that I've been doing this. Courtney Arango is a Kearny resident, and she is starring in Boop the Musical on Broadway. And she has been kind enough to join us today to talk about her play and her roles. She's got a few of them. You'll see that in a minute. And I am very excited to introduce you today to Courtney Arango, who joins us from not too far away from here right now. We'll tell you exactly where it is, but she's very close by. So here she is, Courtney Arango. Courtney, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, please tell me, how does a woman from Florida who moves to Kearny, New Jersey, create a life like you have, where you are now starring on Broadway? It must be an incredible journey to have gotten where you are now.
100%. I think for me, the theater bug hit me very young. I grew up dancing, so I started dancing like heavily in a dance studio when I was about 7 years old. And I don't know what it was for me, but I never connected dance to being like a career option. And then when I was 11, I came to New York City with my dance studio to compete in our nationals that year. And I saw my first Broadway musical, which was Thoroughly Modern Millie. And if you guys are familiar, you know that the woman who starred in that was Sutton Foster, a true triple threat. And I just remember for the first time seeing everything that I loved, singing, dancing, and acting in one place. And I don't know what it was in me, but something just connected, like that is a career and that is the thing I want to do with the rest of my life. So I found what I loved very, very young, and then proceeded to just like vigorously go after that. So I went to performing arts middle school, performing arts high school, and then that led me to Boston Conservatory in Boston, Massachusetts for college, where I studied musical theater, got a BFA in musical theater. And then the plan was kind of always, after finishing college, that I'd move to New York City, which I did, and then pursue theater. So I have been working as an actor really since about 2011, while I was still in college.
Right.
And it's been a crazy, 14 years of just grinding, doing the audition grind, working jobs that take you out of town, to lead to this moment, which is me making my Broadway debut.
I have watched some of your videos, and it seems to me that you have been all over the country. Can you talk a little bit about like some of the places where you've performed over the years?
Yeah, happily. I feel so lucky to have gotten to be a part of the projects that I have been. So, that's a thing a lot of people don't know, is that as an auditioning actor in New York City, a lot of the time you're auditioning in New York, but most of the work takes you out of New York.
Right.
So I have been able to perform at regional theaters around the country in Milwaukee, Seattle, St. Paul, Minneapolis, Weston, Vermont, Rochester, New York. I've gotten to kind of perform everywhere, and I also had the opportunity to do the national tour of Jesus Christ Superstar, which literally took me all over the country, and I was traveling every Monday to a new city. Right.
Wow. Yeah. Is that grueling, the travel and all that you have to do in preparation for your roles?
Yeah, and it definitely is. It definitely is. It's funny sometimes when chat with people who are coming to the stage door, they're seeing a show, they're like, "But what do you guys do for work?" And it's this,
Yep.
it's we're full time. Like, if we're not on stage, it's full time maintenance on like keeping your body right and trying to maintain your health, because it is hard to be up 8 shows a week, doing repetitive movement and staying healthy enough to give audiences the performances that they deserve to see.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about keeping up with all this, but Lisa told me that the role that you are currently in is an ever-changing role. Can you explain that? Because she explained it to me, but I cannot believe that you are able to do what she tells me you do. Can you tell everybody about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So,
Wow.
many people don't even know that the job that I have exists, and that job is called the swing. So we have what you would see traditionally on stage. You're going to see your principal cast. You're going to see an ensemble of people that populate the stage and create the life, of all of the other people in the story. Um, and then you have your swings, who could be on stage swings or off stage swings. In our show, our swings are off stage swings. And basically, what our job is to know every single person's track that populates the ensemble.
My God.
If any of them go into a principal track, like if they understudy a principal and they have to be on for a principal one day, I'll
Yeah.
step into their track in the ensemble. Or if someone is out sick, I'll step into their job in the ensemble. Um, and so, literally, as one person, you are splitting your brain into 8 different people. You have
Wow.
to do 8 different people's shows. Um, and the hardest part is that at any moment you could be thrown on stage. So most of the time we don't know in advance if we're going on.
Mhm.
We get a few hours notice so we can study our track.
Oh my
Um,
God.
but it has already happened to me in Boop, where I've been thrown on in the middle of the show. Someone started the show and then got sick in the middle of the show, and then all of a sudden
Whoa.
I'm on stage a few numbers later.
Oh
um,
my
so
goodness.
you kind of just have to like be ready to go at a moment's notice, and like have the capability of being able to split your brain to isolate down to the one track when 8 different tracks.
Wow.
It's a very unique, difficult job. And I
I
am not saying this because I am biased, but it
no.
is a job that requires an extremely broad skill set. And man, the swings of Broadway are just forces of nature.
I was gonna say, like, there I have never heard of anything like this in my life. I would venture to say, you correct me if I'm wrong, that you have talent that is far beyond anybody else that's gonna be on that stage, because you have to do things that nobody else has to do. They've got one set of lines to know. They've got one set of moves and songs to sing. You've gotta know 8. How on earth does a brain process all that stuff?
Uh, that is something that I is ever changing, and I'm like consistently learning at. I don't know
Yeah,
how I do it.
yeah,
I just know that somehow I do. And it's everyone has their like gifts that they bring to the stage. And
right.
the thing about a swing is that, yes, exactly what you said, like your skill set has to be so broad, because if in our show, for example, we have hip hop specialties on stage, we have tap specialties on stage, we have jazz specialties on stage, we have people that are singing the soprano line, people that are singing the alto line, we have acting features. So when you're looking for a swing, you're not just casting the one person who has to do, okay, maybe they don't need to be as strong in their dancing because they're not in a dance heavy track. They're doing the acting feature. So we can cast this person who is a really strong actor who's going to bring so much life to that role. But when you're casting a swing, you have to find a person that is capable of doing all of
All
those
of it.
things,
Wow.
and is also capable of doing the brain switching, because
Right.
you could be on one day in one track and then literally that night you're on in a different track, and you need to find the brain that can do that. But then on top of that, you need to find the personality that can maintain calm when
Mm.
all of the chaos is ensuing around, because it is a very stressful situation, and to find the right personality to kind of fit the dynamics of all of that is a whole separate challenge.
Well, how did you learn that, or is that something that was innate in you to keep so calm while things are so chaotic around you when you're in this type of situation?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
I I think I don't know. I think when I swung for the first time, which was in Jesus Christ Superstar, I was kind of thrown into an experience where I feel like it couldn't possibly get harder than that, because
Yeah.
the way that that show was built, um, the way that show was built, the moment you step foot on stage, you're on stage for the next hour and a half. You don't leave the stage. So the show just keeps moving. And the reality was, you either know it or you don't as a swing. There's
Right.
no in between. You don't have a moment to come off stage and like quickly reference notes. Like, you just either know it or you don't.
Right.
And I think that I kind of like had trial by fire there, and learned very quickly, like, okay, if I know how the show moves and I know what number is next, and I'm watching from the outside a lot, so like I have a general idea of where each person is at any given moment, like, I'm going to figure this out. In the moments where you're like, oh, I'm having a brain fart and it's not connecting and I don't know where I go next, um, I have been very lucky to, like, be treated with the phrase we lovingly say, shove with love.
Okay.
And that is a representation sometimes of what the cast is doing when those moments of uncertainty happen. They're like, just kind of like nudging in to their spot and like pushing you over just a little bit so that
Yeah.
you your correct spot. So it is a team effort, but you definitely have to be like, it's a hard skill. You learn to trust yourself more and more.
Sure.
And the biggest thing is like, with a cast that gets to rehearse their tracks 8 times a week, and they're on stage 8 times a week. They're doing these things all the time. They're in a full rehearsal period. Like, the swing experience is totally different because you're rehearsing on the side. You're not stepping in like for one person consistently. You're changing all the time. Oftentimes your process is watching from the side of the room or the side of the stage or out front, and you're not in it when you're rehearsing. So there is definitely like nerves, fear, and you just have to kind of be like, I know my job, I'm good at my job, I can do this. And you have to accept that it will never be perfect. It will
Mm.
never be perfect. Mistakes are going to be made, and the job of swinging is all about how quickly you recover from those mistakes. Because truly, if I were to dwell on a mistake I made in the first number,
Right.
is going to spiral into me having a terrible show. And the reality is that most of the time, if I'm going to make a mistake, it's not going to be anything that's big enough for the audience to even notice.
Right. Right. We
You
do
know?
we deal with that in this business too. I know, like, if I make an error in a story, I'm gonna know I made a mistake, but the average person who's reading's not gonna know, or watching like we're doing right now. So that's the beauty of it. And if you don't recover right away, you're never gonna make it. So it's an incredible way to do things. And I have to ask you this because I don't know much about acting at all. I've never acted, but is it, because of all the things that you just mentioned, is this a cutthroat type of world that you have to live in right now, or Is it like what is it like behind the scenes when people aren't on in the audience and looking and watching and things of that nature? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting. Like the nature of the business, of course, is very competitive. Like it's there are so few jobs, so you're just hopeful that you're gonna book and be competitive. But what I will say is that the older I have gotten, the longer I have stayed in this business, I have personally really latched on to the idea that like the projects that are for me are going to be my projects regardless of who is in the room that day.
Good.
And there is so much that is difficult in terms of, just the consistency of your work and your paycheck, the like wanting to perform and not always having the opportunities to because you're in the audition phase, not the working phase. You're there's so much that is difficult. Facing the rejection all the time, like it's a
Mhm.
numbers game, so you're gonna face rejection no matter how talented you are.
Right.
Uh, all of that is so hard, and my personal feeling is like I don't need to make it harder by walking into rooms and being a competitive energy.
Mm.
I personally like to go into rooms and just support and have fun with whoever is in the room auditioning with me because that's like that's our class, that
Right.
we're treated as class. This
Yeah.
is our job. Auditioning is the job. Getting to perform is the cherry on top. So I find like that has been a very beneficial way to operate because you have camaraderie around you at that point, and like your energy can spiral into something positive for the next person and create a really positive audition experience versus a cutthroat competitive experience.
Right.
Now transferring that into um into the job that I'm currently doing, it's not there. I wouldn't say there is competitiveness. Like, we all sign a contract at the end of the day, and you sign on knowing what the job is.
Right.
So I came into the experience, number one, having swung before, so I knew what it was. But then also coming into the experience, understanding my job in this building is to step in for all of these 8 people that I cover. And that is going to mean sometimes that I'm on stage a lot if we're having a lot of sickness in the building or someone is out because of a vacation or whatever it is. And sometimes that's going to mean I'm not on at all. And that was the job I signed up for knowing.
Right.
Now, just because you know what the job is doesn't mean you don't face the emotional moments, of course, of like wanting to perform,
Sure.
when when you're like having to sit off stage and watch everyone else do the thing you love, like sometimes that's not fun. For me, like probably the most difficult part of it has just been that this is my Broadway debut, and um, there are so many people who have played a role in this dream coming true, this success taking place in my life. My parents absolutely being at the forefront of that, like the the sacrifice that my immediate family has made for me to be standing here in this success right now, that is that's years and years of sacrifice. That's my parents making financial sacrifices of their time. That's my sisters, like having to sometimes not do extracurricular activities because I was dancing so heavily. Like that, it for me, this is such a family success,
Wow.
which is why having them here for opening night, like all my both my sisters and my parents, like having them here for opening night and being able to celebrate this moment with them meant everything to me. Um, but it is hard knowing, I'm making my Broadway debut, and I hope they're going to get to see me in the show. Um, but the reality is I never know when I'm on. So unless I get scheduled dates, it's hard to like plan for them to be here to see me on that stage that they know I have dreamt about since I was 11, you know.
Did they get to see you that night?
So they actually missed my Broadway debut by a
Ah,
day.
ah,
My little sister, my little sister did get to see me, and oh, I'll cry thinking about it. But there is nothing like looking out to that audience, and so I was bowing on the right side of the stage, and my sister and one of my best friends was just like 4 rows back in
wow,
the audience right in front of me. So when I took my bow, I could see them, and to come out the stage door, and like my sister just, I cried the whole time because
Mhm.
it's not, it's an amazing thing to like see someone who you have watched sacrifice and train and train and train and overcome a lot to stand in the moment of them achieving their dreams. And
Sure.
it's a powerful moment for all of them. My family didn't, other than my little sister, didn't see me on stage, but they cried through my entire opening night because they know what I have had to sacrifice and overcome to be here.
Sure. The culmination of all those years of getting to where you were is just overwhelming, right?
Totally.
If you're just joining us, Courtney Arango is here with us today, and she's starring in Boop the Musical on Broadway. Tell us a little bit about the show itself. Where do you and where can you watch it, and how do you get tickets and things of that nature?
So we are playing at the Broadhurst. We're on 44th between 7th and 8th. And if you just go to our website, which I believe is boopthemusical.com, and I am going to double check this right now because I don't want to give you
It's
the
okay.
wrong information. Boopthemusical.com. Yep,
Beautiful.
boopthemusical.com.
Perfect. Okay.
Get tickets from there. And then, of course, you can always just stop by our box office. If you're like in the city last minute and looking for a show to come and see, come by our box office, and they're wonderful people that will help you figure out tickets that way. But the best way really is to get on our website. You can see kind of what availability is out, is available for the next few weeks and months, and pick a time, come with your families. It's such a good show for families all around. Kids will love it. It's very kid friendly. But there is so much heart to this story, and it is definitely something for adults as well. It's not something you're gonna like go and feel like, I'm just taking my child to be entertained today. No, this is definitely a story that has a lot of heart, and the numbers are so entertaining. And honestly, you guys would be in for a treat, not only because this cast is phenomenal, but the Tony Award nominations came out yesterday, and our leading lady, Jasmine Amy Rogers, who plays Betty Boop, was nominated for a Tony for Best
Wow.
Actress in a Musical, and this is her Broadway debut. So this is a like tour de force performance, and she is stepping onto a Broadway stage for the first time herself. It's
Wow.
not to be missed. Her performance is not to be missed.
We're gonna have to get over to the city to see you. I mean, that's the truth, and sooner than later, that's for sure. But what an incredible, but sort of I'm gonna say tail end to all this, but that she's nominated for such an incredible award. That's phenomenal.
An incredibly difficult season. I have to say that because it is an incredibly difficult season, and this woman was just nominated in a category of 5 with 4 legends around her.
Really.
This is it's a massive deal, and she is so deserving. Her performance is so deserving, and I mean, truly, you guys come see this cast. Come see Jasmine. She it's just a joyful show. You will leave feeling really good. And that, gosh, in a world that is full of a lot of chaos and divisiveness, we all need a little joy.
That is the truth.
Joy. Hope is
That
joy.
that is the truth. Courtney, speaking of so many, we've covered so many different things today, but I know for you, being here today is something that may not have always been a certainty. Um, Talk to us about that a little bit and about what you've gone through the last couple of years, because what I know, what you've gone through, and what I see today is nothing short of one of the most inspiring things I've ever seen. And I wonder if you'd share that with our viewers.
Yeah, thank you. Um, yeah, so last April, so this really, I've just hit the year mark. Um, Last April was diagnosed with breast cancer. And um, to say that uh, completely rocked my world, like, would not be an understatement. I'm an incredibly health conscious person. I'm very, like, physically active. I enjoy health. I enjoy eating good food and cooking, and, like, I have an interest in all of that. However, as my breast surgeon told me, breast cancer does not discriminate. And it is something that is affecting so many women around the country. And unfortunately, that is now a part of my story as well. Um, so, yeah, I was diagnosed with breast cancer last April. And I think, you immediately kick into, like, everyone's experience is totally different. My experience, of course, highly emotional to be diagnosed.
Sure.
Um, but the level of uncertainty that brings to so many other things in my life, when my career is very physical, like, I'm a dancer, so literally, like, needing to be physically healthy to do my job, to make a living, it's, of course, presents all these other questions about, like, am I going to be able to work? And outside of just trying to focus on, like, am I going to be healthy enough to survive this? Like, am I coming out the other side? Like, there are so many fears that are initially placed in you. But even just to be, an artist and worrying about, like, how am I keeping my health insurance? Because I literally, the way we earn our health insurance is we have to work a certain number of weeks performing in shows in order to earn our health insurance for the year.
Sure.
So to understand, as I started to go through the process, that if I don't continue to work, I will lose my health insurance, and then what?
Yeah.
you know, yeah, this past year has been an incredibly difficult one.
How are you doing now?
I am doing well. I'm cancer free. I
Good.
am very, very grateful. I'm very open and in talking about all of this, because truly, I think that, myself included, like, we all have ideas about what a cancer diagnosis looks like, and we all know, in the worst case scenario, what it can mean. And I think when you start to approach that in your own diagnosis, it's scary. Like, it is scary. But for me in particular, I was very committed to not wanting my idea of what a cancer diagnosis looked like to dictate how I was going to walk through my
Right.
diagnosis. And so, kind of from day one, I, like, started to set my boundaries about, like, what I wanted, and, like, what I wanted to surround myself with and my mind with. And how I was going to move through and operate. And so basically a month after I was diagnosed, I had a bilateral mastectomy. And I scheduled it for the day I did because I had an offer to go and do a show 6 weeks later. And so I was like, well, I don't want my life to stop because I was diagnosed with cancer.
Right.
So I am going to try to do that show, and I'm just going to try to do that show. And so, I knew once I had my mastectomy that it would be 6 weeks of healing. And so 6 weeks to the day was the first day I was allowed to dance, and that was the first day of rehearsal for a show
Wow.
summer. And the piece of it that, of course, I didn't know at the time, was that I ended up needing to have chemotherapy, which we were not thinking was going to be on the table just clinically based on what my cancer looked like when it came out of my body.
Right.
So I ended up needing chemo. I did my first round of chemo the week before I started rehearsal. And then I proceeded to go through 3 weeks of rehearsal, come back for chemo treatment, go back to Vermont, do 3 weeks of shows, come back for chemo treatment, back to Vermont, do some weeks of shows. And then we closed, and I came back and I did my last chemo treatment. And, I'm very, very grateful. My body was able to carry me through and continued to allow me to perform and dance as I went through treatment. And there were definitely days that were very, very hard. And that's when, you just have to thank your lucky stars. Like, I had just angels around me in terms of support, like from the theaters I worked at to my family who was by my side, and friends who just like completely stepped in and came out and stayed with me and were there like the weeks following my chemo treatments to like walk my dog and help me cook dinner and just like do the things that become physically exhausting when you're trying to put all of your energy into the energy you have into putting a performance on, and some people that is not for them.
Right.
I will say for me, in my experience, it was incredibly powerful, and I did not know that it would be this way going in, but it was incredibly powerful to be embodying a role. I was playing Fastrada in Pippin, to be embodying a role that has, a lot of sex appeal, and she's very in her womanhood, as I was going through the process of completely losing my hair and having bald spots on the top of my head and like feeling so disconnected from my body because my body was a totally new one. I was learning it for the first time all over again. So that was an incredibly powerful experience. And then also just powerful in the sense that I was so grateful in a time that was filled with so much emotion, feeling not my best, so much uncertainty and fear, that I was really able to dive in and invest in the thing that I love and to have the distraction of that and the incredible community I had around me as I was going through one of the most difficult times in my life. That is a gift I will just never take for granted. And I'm so grateful that my body allowed me to do it. And I'm so grateful to be able to share that with people because no one's experience is the same. And unfortunately, a cancer diagnosis sometimes dictates how we have to walk through the world based on circumstances that we can't control. Our energy levels, our feeling nauseous and sick, and our appetite not being there. Like all of that is stuff we can't dictate. But the thing that I feel so planted in is that cancer doesn't have to look the way many of us imagine it to. And I want to share that hope with people who are going through it because I needed that hope.
And that hope has led to this day. And seeing you succeeding like this for us here is such a joy. And your outlook, your positivity, the way you just move about the world is something like I've never seen in my life. And I cannot thank you enough for sharing this with our viewers and readers. And I know that I think we're going to have a few more conversations like this over the years as you continue to do great things in the world of theater. You have already done it, but to see the success is nothing short of amazing, and we could not be happier for you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Courtney.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you soon. Take care.